never trained kids to be music teachers. It was like, I want you to be consumers of music. That's the whole point, is so that you grow up, you mature into wanting to have music in your life in some fashion. That's the whole point.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. It just hit me that we probably should say our names to the camera. My name is Roger Hack. I'm the Executive Director for Denver Philharmonic Orchestra. And then we're speaking with the wonderful...
You're supposed to say my name.
Well, I want you to say your name.
I'm Zina Richardson.
You learned from Antonia Brico.
Yes, I wound up in Denver because of Brico. I came here to study conducting with her.
You got to tell the story of how that came about. I love this story.
Oh gosh, I saw, just inadvertently, watching PBS. I've always loved PBS, and I saw the movie that Judy Collins and Jill Godmello did called Antonia, Portrait of the Woman. And I thought, oh my God, it's a woman conductor. And I was a senior in college and had aspirations toward that, so there was no tech. I went to the school library and found a Denver phone book and her address and wrote her a letter. So a few weeks later, I get a phone call from a woman who lives in Tulsa, and she says, "Is this Zina Richardson?" I said, "Yeah." "Who is this?" She said, "Are you sitting down?" And so I said, "Who is this?" Anyway, she said who she was. Her name was Phil Smith, or Dorothy Smith, and that she was a friend of Antonia Brico's, had been her secretary, and that Antonia always came to their home for Thanksgiving and wanted me to come and meet her. She wanted to meet me. So I was just flabbergasted, of course. And so, of course, I went and visited Phil and Norman. We were great friends by the time Brico got there. So it was like, we don't need Brico, we're good friends already. But she showed up, and so that's how I met her.
Wow.
And then we came out for her opera series she always did in May, 3 concerts featuring her students generally, and a lot of course, Denver talent. And I still know a lot of those people. So we came out for those concerts, and she offered me a scholarship to come study. So I came out to Denver to study with her.
So how was it in that room meeting Antonia Brico for the first time?
Scary. I was scared. But Phil and Norman, of course, had filled me in about her quite a lot. So I kind of knew what to expect. She was kind of a prima donna and wanted to be served and taken care of and would only eat certain things and this and that. Phil had warned me about all of that, so I was ready. But she was very kind and she was very funny. She told stories. Oh gosh, she was a big storyteller.
Do you recall any particular story
No.
that she told then? But
No, I don't.
probably just in awe.
She told so many. I was in awe at that point. I just tried to just not be heard. Just kind of sit and watch what she was doing and what they were doing. Yeah. The best thing was if you could get past the teaching and the being the conductor, if you could get her to just sit and talk and to sit and play the piano, it was wonderful. Especially if you could talk her into playing some of the stuff, the vaudeville type stuff she played when she was in college to make a living. Oh, it was hysterical. And then she would break out singing, and that was really special to do that.
I forgot about that vaudeville stuff. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. Well, that's how she got kicked out of her home. Her mother found out she was saving her money in her piano. She would hide it inside the piano because her mother took all the money. It was not her mother. It was an adopted. She was adopted out of Holland. The mother was never kind to her at all. I don't know why they adopted her. Anyway, she earned a lot of money because she wanted, of course, to go to New York, and then she wanted to go study in Germany. And the mother found the money and found out she was playing in what they used to call bawdy houses, not body, B-O-D, bawdy houses, and she was then kicked out of her home. And the mother took all the money, so she wound up going with friends, finding friends and people that would help her. Yep. She was always one for finding people that would help her. I don't know how she made it, but she did.
She went all the way to Sibelius's house even.
Oh yeah, she didn't even tell him she was coming. She didn't want to be turned down, so she didn't tell him she was coming. She went all the way to Finland. And then, took a taxi, I guess, out to his house. And then he couldn't turn her away because she'd gone so far. Well, luckily, they turned out to be really, really good friends, really close, and especially with his wife. She became very close and went several times to visit him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So she offered you a scholarship to come out to Colorado and learn under her.
Yep.
Was she teaching for some just independent on her own, or was she teaching?
No, independent on her own. She never was within a university. It was out of her home, and the scholarship just meant a cut rate. Basically, she called it a scholarship. But once I got here, I found out what it was all about, and played in her orchestra for years, and one of her orchestra members gave me a place to live. He and his wife had a little apartment down in their basement, and another one got me connected with the Denver schools. So I became a substitute teacher, and then that was from September until end of December, beginning of January, and then I got a job with the Boulder Valley schools at that time.
What was it like going to a lesson with Antonia Brico?
Oh, well, at first, the first thing you had to do was play piano for her. And of course, everybody got put in the piano hospital because nobody played correctly. Everybody had their shoulders up and every stiff and all. But everybody had to go to the piano hospital, so that meant piano lessons too. But yeah, you would sit and go through lessons and play out of solfege books and out of everything, all the different clefs. You had to play on the piano with her and do the Hindemith book, the Paul Hindemith book, the rhythm. And she was amazed. I could go right through that because I was a percussionist.
How did things progress over the years? Once you got settled and got past that, the awestruckness? I did at least one lesson, sometimes two a week. When we got to the opera concerts, I conducted the chorus and conducted the singers. So it would be, accompanists would be on the piano, and I would conduct the pieces that they were doing during lessons and also nighttime rehearsals that we would have. But generally, it got to a point where I'd go make her a cup of tea, or, and especially like after rehearsal. She never ate before rehearsal, but I'd take her home from rehearsal, and then she wanted to eat, so, I'd cook something for her. She always wanted scrambled eggs and jam and the bread Elizabeth had baked or whatever. And so that was special to get to do that. If you had to look back at a particular moment where you say, this is quintessential Brico in terms of what a lesson she was imparting on either you, or maybe she was at the podium and placing this out on the entire orchestra or group she was conducting.
The fact that when you're conducting, you keep your mouth closed. You don't sing along. You don't sing along with what's going on. You keep your mouth closed and your feet are in place. You never move. Your feet, she used to talk about how bad her feet were because she had to just plant her feet and just stand there like that. But that's the way she was taught, the German way, I guess, at that point. Dr. Monk was very strict with her. I felt that if there was any flaw, it was that she tried to be exactly what the composer wrote down. You know, nowadays we think of a conductor as an interpreter to the orchestra. And she was taught, this is what was written, this is what you do. And I mean, she was to the point she would go to rehearsals and watch Toscanini or some other famous conductor, and she would have a stopwatch, and you look at her scores, and from here to here she would write, this took 2 minutes and 41 seconds. This part took this long. And she would write the metronome markings and how long this conductor, and some of her scores have markings of several different conductors and what they did. So that would be the biggest thing that I think. She was very strict about, this is what the composer wrote, this is what's on the music, this is how it's been done, because that's what she learned. I don't think she ever felt the freedom to really conduct from her soul, except for Sibelius. I think that with Sibelius, she had, I think, that freedom. And over the almost 10 years that I studied with her, that's what I felt when she conducted everything.
I'm wondering if, because she knew Sibelius, like, in either words or just implicitly, gave her that permission.
I think so, because I have scores that have notes that Sibelius or JS said to do it this way, or JS says to do it this way, or she made notes about what he told her and what changes he made in the score. So I think that maybe he imparted that his particular music had to have a feeling of fluency here and there, or her own interpretation. And to the point that, I mean, I was in an orchestra with her early on. She was one of the guest conductors, she and Elizabeth Green, both incredible conductors. And the thing that I loved about them is they came in and they conducted the entirety of the piece before they stopped the orchestra and rehearsed anything. And she did that with the Second Symphony. And to this date, I have never seen an orchestra do this before. She conducted the entirety of the Second Symphony, and at the end of it, all of those concertmasters were on their feet, applauding her interpretation of Sibelius. It was that beautiful. It just brought tears to your eyes.
When you call her it being a flaw that she was so exact, it almost makes me think that she was, like, it gives me more respect for her, that in this mindset she was being less of the interpreter, more of the steward to the composer, and bringing that, what the composer may or may not have intended,
exactly, and
to the orchestra.
She learned from the masters. She learned from some very famous people, very great people, that this is how you interpret the music. So to her, it was this is to be perfect. Her beat patterns and everything, it was all about clarity. Being absolute clear with your baton so that people could see what you were doing from any angle. That was a big thing. She was really big into being able to play anybody's part on the piano, so you knew what every part was.
That's really cool.
And you could sing it with solfege, or you could play it on the piano, every instrument's part. Yeah.
If there's one thing that you now as a teacher would like to impart on others, it doesn't have to be just one, but what's a major item that you want to make sure is imparted on to students moving forward?
Throughout all of my teaching over the years, I think the main thing was to let yourself get to the point, let yourself go and be part of the music, and to aesthetically enjoy the music, but you have to know the music in order to get to that place. You cannot give a concert and expect an aesthetic response from your audience unless you feel it yourself. That's when people decide to become musicians, professional musicians, is when a group, a singer, whatever, has brought them to a tear in their eye, or made them almost cry, or made their heart just pound with the music. That's an aesthetic response. And if you can teach people that you're giving something, you're not just playing the black dots on the paper. You have to understand the entire phrase, the entire development of the music, so that you can pass that on to your audience.